That's the therapy that we have right now with the group, with the organization that we're involved in right now. It's a comfortable feeling knowing that you are sharing time with guys that you knew were there, guys that you knew had the same commitment, the same dedication. And to me, the important part of the group really is that we check in on each other. You know, if one guy doesn't show up, you know, is he okay? If a guy is sick, what can we do? How can we help him or help his family? You know, God forbid one of the guys passes away. We just had a guy pass away, you know, just recently. You know, how can we be a part of his wake, his funeral? Can we hold some type of an honor guard ceremony there? Because they haven't been forgotten by us. You know, and the important part more than anything is that we don't forget. That's what's important. You know, the reasons we get together to check in. The camaraderie is great and the esprit de corps is great. But it's more of about being that band of the brotherhood that exists and knowing that you can see a guy face to face and say, okay, he looks like he's doing well, or he doesn't look like he's doing well at all. Let's check in on him a little bit. We got one of the guys in the group now, he's going through chemotherapy. We check in on him. What can we do to help? You know, that's the importance, I think, of having the organization, you know, that Timmy's the president of. So, right, Hazmat, Hazardous Materials Company #1. Yeah.
Off duty as well that day?
I was off duty that morning. My morning started around 7 o'clock. My daughter was 1. She was an early riser. I was always the one that she woke up. Daddy was a lot of fun back then. And we were playing on the kitchen floor sometime before 9 o'clock. The phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, Margaret. She was frantic. I said, what's going on? And she said, thank God you're home. Turn the TV on. I turned the TV on, and there was a news reporter showing a picture of the World Trade Center. A plane just had flown into the North Tower. And, you know, the TV reporter was not sure what happened. I knew exactly what happened. Handed my then wife, my daughter, kissed them both, and drove to my firehouse. Got there, and we gathered as much equipment as we can. There was not a lot left. Most of the equipment was already gone. One of the guys was a volunteer fire chief. We put everything in his Suburban. We drove into Manhattan, lights and sirens. By the time I got to my firehouse, a plane had already hit the South Tower, and the South Tower had already collapsed. By the time we got into Manhattan, the North Tower had just collapsed. We got as far as we could take the car. You know, roads were blocked, and people were just walking, covering their faces. Everybody was covered with dust. Some were bleeding, some were already bandaged. There was a Duane Reade on the corner of Broadway and Vesey. We parked not too far from there. The Duane Reade store was being ransacked for all of its content. There was a fire chief. There was hundreds of cops and firemen. Fire chief kept yelling, get these supplies to the Trade Center. They were dumping these supplies into giant mail bins, trying to get them down. There was a police horse trailer, believe it or not. The guy yelled over to us, come on, jump in, we'll take you as close as we can to the Trade Center. We jumped in, he drove us, debris-covered street. He got us as far as we could. We got out, cars were burning, buildings were on fire. There was just a rain of debris coming down from the sky. I actually, one of the first guys I ran into was Timmy's brother, Jerry Murphy, one of our senior men, and met a couple other guys. It was chaotic, to say the least. You know, chiefs were, you know, constantly telling us we need to just try and find any life at all. I mean, as firemen, that's what we do. We look for life. We search. That's what we do. You know, we searched the opposite the collapse areas. We tried to get in as close as we could to the collapse area. For obvious reasons, it was just a tremendous collapse area. We searched in so many different places. I searched in 7 World Trade Center before it came down. You know, 47-story high-rise tower that was fully involved in fire most of the afternoon. And when it came down at 5:21, you know, you felt that force. You felt the hot, the heat, the debris, and you know, guys just started crying, and it was infectious, and guys were holding each other. And you know, for me personally, I knew it felt like to feel what unimaginable felt like. You know, I thought to myself right away, there was no way any of our brothers could have ever survived the collapse of a 110-story tower, feeling what a 47-story tower felt like collapsing. And that's the way it was for most guys. That's the way it was for the rest of that day. I was there Tuesday morning. I didn't leave till sometime around Thursday night. Around 10 o'clock, I went back to my firehouse, took a shower. We knew we were missing, I actually lost 19 guys in my firehouse. But we knew we were missing so many more guys. We had already known so many of our close friends that had already died, We knew that there was a tremendous amount of civilians, lives that were lost. In the end, 2,977 innocent lives, 343 firefighters, 72 law enforcement. And that's it. That's the way it went for a lot of guys. I went back to the firehouse that Thursday night, got a couple hours sleep, went back to the site next day, and that's all we did was search. That's all we did. We as firemen, we have the ability to put ourselves in a state of mind, whereas we just continue to drive forward. We put our emotions on a shelf, and we know what mission we have, and that's just to save lives as best we possibly can. I was there until Saturday night. I left sometime around midnight. I went home for the first time. I was home 4 times the first 30 days. My wife kept a journal. But that's the way it went for most guys. Most guys who were missing friends and brothers, there was no other place that they really wanted to be, and other than the sites, to try to find their brothers. And fortunately, of the 19 guys that we found, 8 that were in my company, 11 that were in Hazmat. We had a company firehouse together. We only found 4 of our guys, so it was tough being anywhere else. And but one of the things I think I'm most thankful for is we did our very best for our brothers' families. That's what was important. After you reach a certain point, I would say probably close to at least 7 days, 6 or 7 days at least. I think most of us thought we were going to find somebody alive. I think most of us thought we were going to find somebody, and unfortunately that never happened. But we were there for our brothers' families, and as best we possibly could be. And the mission changed from search and rescue to recovery, and the days and the weeks and the months that followed, it seemed to get a little bit easier. It got a lot more organized, but the sadness really took a long time for it to start to subside. It'll never go away. I wake up every morning with the thoughts of September 11th. You can look at a clock and it can say 9/11, and that's twice a day, and that's it brings it all back again. And at 3:43 in the afternoon, it brings you right back to to September 11th, and that's the times we spend between September 11th to September 11th. Those are the thoughts that constantly come back.
Your daughter too.
My daughter too. Yeah, she was one at a time, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that she stayed involved. She was, for obvious reasons, her life was impacted by it, and it has meaning to her. And although I know, like Timmy had said, kids that were 25, who are now 25, who may not have been directly involved in some kind of an impact, some kind of a loss, some kind of a sad attachment to September 11th, they might not know about it. For the kids that have, like Timmy's kids, my kids, they grew up with it. They grew up going to the memorials. They grew up going to the services. They grew up knowing the guys who we knew, But I think the important part, for me personally, the most important part is that I remember, and that I help people remember, because it can be easily forgotten. And I think what this country went through, this nation was attacked. And I think it's important to know that hopefully we never allow that to happen again. That's what's important for me. Sure. I oftentimes talk about the brothers that I lost. there was a point where I had reached where I mourned their loss. I truly mourned their deaths. I stopped mourning their death after, I would say, close to 10 years later. I now praise their courage and their sacrifice. I commend them for the job that they did. I personally see a firefighter or a police officer or a member in uniform, and I think to myself, they signed a check that may one day be cashed in, like the 19 guys I lost, like the members that Timmy lost. They didn't have a chance to say goodbye. They didn't have a chance to call a loved one and say, I love you, goodbye. They just did what they signed up to do. Ordinary people turned into extraordinary human beings, and I think more than anything, I would say that whenever I see a cop or a fireman, I thank them for their service, because you just don't know if this might be the last day, that they may be around.